Just before I start the video, I'd like to point out that the update 1.0b has in fact been launched for Paladins, and in this update, a lot of the issues that I point out in the video have actually been fixed. I still feel like I raise a lot of valid points in this video, so with that aside, let's get into it. Welcome everybody, Paladins has just launched. In this video, I'll be discussing the controversial release and offering my own input on the topic. Now to kick things off, I'd just like to say that I reckon Hi-Rez completely fucked an amazing opportunity here. Not only did they have the chance to draw in an immense number of new players with some form of marketing, but they also messed up making the game actually launch ready. How they've managed probably the most colossal misstep in the entire game's history with the easiest opportunity completely baffles me. Before I really get into it though, I'll admit that I'm a little bit late to the party, so a lot of what I say here has almost certainly already been said. However, this is something that I just couldn't stay silent about. So strap in, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm about to dive headfirst into the huge pile of shit that is the Paladins 1.0 launch. Alright, first things first. The game's not complete. Now, when I say that, I don't mean, oh, there's only 7 support characters, the game's unplayable. No, I'm talking about the fact that I can't see half the champions' portraits in the loading screen. I know you've seen this before because you've played the game. There's the fact that the ratings tab in your profile contains 0 content whatsoever. The fact that the loading frames section has only 1 frame that you can currently unlock. The patch summary tab that shows literally nothing. The lack of a feature in which you can search for a champion or filter out specific roles. The fact that the Battle Pass challenges still haven't been released. Something FYI that you pay real money for. And then there's the fact that there's only 5 total player icons. None of which are unlockable through playing the fucking game. Like, what? I suppose in the grand scheme of things though, this isn't too bad. None of these things affect gameplay in any way, so I suppose they're all just minor gripes. What really hams my biscuits though, is how obviously the reason behind the release is just so that they can get the game on the Nintendo Switch. Rumours have swirled for months now, but it seems every day it becomes more and more likely that we'll get an official announcement from Hi-Rez saying that they're bringing the newly released game over to the popular platform that doesn't have Overwatch on it. I'll leave a link in the description detailing all these rumours so that you guys can check it out. Now, one of the good things here though is that Paladins has finally shed itself of the early access tag, which has effectively given the game a shield to hide behind to most forms of criticism. It seems that Hi-Rez are actually ready to stick to a core system and take whatever opinions are thrown their way for it. Negativity aside, I'm actually happy that Paladins has been launched in the state it's in, as opposed to say OB64. I think that the game is probably in its best form so far, regardless of all the shortcomings in terms of content and all that other stuff. So far this video may just sound like mindless ranting or me bashing the game for things that I feel entitled to, but I do genuinely enjoy playing Paladins and just want to see it succeed. So with that said, let's go ahead and bash it some more, yeah? I've touched on the lack of content, but I honestly only hit the tip of the iceberg. Some things that make this release feel extremely rushed, that make a lot of the communities disappointed, are very valid gripes with the game, and I plan to point all of them out so that Hi-Rez can hopefully improve on their finished product. The first thing I'd like to point out here is all the quality of life improvements that I feel we should expect from the game at this point. These things include a proper tutorial. Let me just give you a rundown on the current tutorial we have. You spawn in, a narrator takes you through all the basic controls of the game. WASD are your movement keys, hit your mouse to shoot, Every champion has 4 abilities, including an ultimate ability. You get a horse, stand on a point to capture it, escort a payload to win a round/game. Now, that may sound like a decent enough tutorial, but it's not nearly in depth enough to offer a proper introduction to the game. There needs to be a way to ease a new player into selecting a role that fits their playstyle. A way to ease a new player into the basics of drafting in a ranked game. A way of showing a new player how to create a loadout without overloading them with information. The list goes on and on. The sad thing though is that Hi-Rez themselves realized these are things that new players should know. So they made a series of readily available videos for these topics. Yet they refuse to even put a link to these videos in the game, let alone properly integrating these concepts into the tutorial. Now, I can already hear you all saying, well, this isn't really a big deal, it's just a tutorial, right? Well, fair point. We'll just move on then. I suppose if I've only spoken about minor things like this the entire video, then the game is doing just fine and doesn't have any game-breaking bugs or anything like that, right? Nothing like ultimate abilities bugging out a vast majority of the time and becoming completely useless. Nothing like the game giving you an artificial LSD trip. Nothing like the core abilities of a champion bugging out and doing something that effectively serves to make the champion unintentionally harder to play. Nothing like using a teleport ability to avoid fire, only to die to someone shooting the place you teleported from, thus killing you for no reason at all. Nah, Hi-Rez would get on these bugs right away instead of leaving them for months and months on end without any communication at all as to whether or not they even know that they exist. How do they intend to build a competitive scene around a game with so many game-breaking bugs? I just don't understand how they can move into esports, but leave huge issues like this for the community to shut up and deal with. I won't jump into that esports can of worms though. I'll save that one for a later video. So anyway, speaking of esports, the release of the game does yield some positive consequences for the professional scene. I've seen numerous amount of posts online bashing Hi-Rez for pushing esports in a game that's still in early access. Releasing the game can only mean good things for this side of Paladins. Unlike PUBG or Fortnite for example, Paladins, and by extension pros, won't receive any sort of criticism for a game pushing a competitive scene in a game that isn't even ready to be played properly. Now, by being played properly, I mean that the game will no longer undergo fundamentally changing updates. All the core aspects of Paladins will stay the same as is now, forever. This is a good thing, as the development team can release updates that will have more focus to them. If they want to target a series of bugs, there won't be any more worries that a future update will undo all that work. Things like the aforementioned game-breaking bugs have a much higher chance of being fixed now that the game's in its 1.0 version. I can only be optimistic about updates being this meaningful too. I mean, look at our most recent batch of updates. OB64's potentially pay-to-win model was removed from the game like a tumour with a drawn-on smiley face. A whole bunch of opportunities for diverse and varied content were made possible with the introduction of player icons, loading frames, death stamps, and even more. Not to mention the recent overhaul of the customization system, in which we've only seen top-notch skins be released. It also feels as if Hi-Rez has started taking the community's suggestions into account a whole lot more too, with small things like decimal sensitivity being introduced. Things like this give me reason to believe that Paladins can only get better from here on out. So, to finish off the video, I'd just like to throw out a few ideas I had to help make our game the one that we all want to see succeed. As long as we see things better than Hi-Rez literally just changing a fucking number and calling it the full version of the game, I think these suggestions should help. I did have a bit of a list in my mind before writing the script for this video, but while writing it, that list's been reduced to the size of a 6-year-old's existential problems. Regardless, I'd like to see some questionable decisions in champions looked at. Things like being able to control the duration of Androxus Reversal or Zin's Billow. I really don't like hitting Q to disengage a target, only to realise that I can do absolutely fuck all about that out of position support on 1 health because I can't cancel Billow. Of course, there are other abilities that should probably be looked at, but I'm sure Hi-Res can figure out what needs to be changed and what doesn't on their own. Another thing I think should be added is more options in custom games. In Overwatch, yes, I'm unironically comparing Paladins to Overwatch, calm down. You have full control over almost every aspect of the game in custom lobbies. Things like being able to change the values on champions, or being able to 1v6 bots that can't shoot so I can practice my aim in a realistic environment. Things like that would be a huge step forward. Now, suggestions aside, I do really like where Paladins is headed. Hi-Res Chris has almost single-handedly restored my faith in the team, and I expect that we'll see a lot of positive things happening in the near future. Personally, I can't wait to see where the pro scene in Paladins is headed. It really excites me to see all the best teams in the world get new opportunities to clash.